just like being kind, like you're listening, you're being aware of where you can actually be of service to people. Yeah, that's it. And maybe you don't feel like being of service, but you do it anyway. That's a key component in Buddhism, especially. Serve people even when it's uncomfortable. It's very powerful. And so you help, and bit by bit, that in itself will start to awaken the heart. And then you start to experience, wow, you're a soul. You're a soul. You're a soul. There's a soul in you. There's a soul in the floor. Like everything is living, everything is alive, not just people. Inanimate objects, you think that they're not living. They're living. They're alive. They're vibrating. Everything is a part of the one. So then wherever you go, you see yourself. And your heart is open to all. Even those who harm you, especially those who harm you, will be the most important. Those people need the most prayers. When people turn on the TV and they watch the politicians, and these things, and they could spend like an hour complaining about politicians. So a different practice would be turn on the TV, look at the politicians, and simply send them prayers. Purnam Saranam, Purnam Saranam. Focus on them. Imagine that they're surrounded in light. Help them. They're going to rule the country. They need as much help as possible, rather than complaining. Right? Because every time you complain, you're also sending negative energy towards that person as well. That's why it's tricky when you become famous. You became a famous actor. It's not so cracked up as people might believe, being famous, because all the negative energy projected onto them. They're affected by that. It's a heavy burden. So, everything, everyone is my own self. How can I extend a helping hand wherever I go? A little ant is crawling across the walkway, and I step over it and send it a blessing and move on. I was telling you I was sitting in the backyard with my bare feet on the grass. One of my practices is to let the bees and the little, I don't know what you call, similar to bees, and let them land on my feet and see if I can just be peaceful and relax as they land. Let them crawl and then fly away without having any fear around that. I'm still working on it. But that's my practice of loving the bees and the whatever they are, hornets or yellow jackets and all. Yeah, just letting them crawl over and move on. And even being okay if there's one of them stings, even being and blessing them. But that would be a practice of sort of non-resistance and ultimately embracing the little guys down below, who we normally don't notice because we're so caught in our thinking mind and head about what am I going to do next? When's my next appointment? You see what I mean? We don't have time for these little creatures down below who are living in their own world and have their own civilization. Their population is greater than ours. Ants probably 100 times more than our population, 1,000 times more. It's a huge civilization of ants. They should call it an ant planet rather than a human planet. So, best to send love and blessings to the ants because they are the true conquerors of the world. And they're powerful. Ants are amazing. Have you ever seen an ant crawl up a glass and it just will look around and like scope out the area? I mean, they're practically like humans. They're really highly intelligent. It makes you think twice before killing an ant. They have a soul, an atma, just as humans do. And interesting too, the power of the soul in the ant is equal to the power of the soul in a human. There's no difference. Plus, we were ants in previous lifetimes as well. We would have loved it if the bigger creatures had been mindful and step over us as well. So this sort of attention to our, you could call them like our brothers and sisters, fellow earthlings who are walking the earth too. We would like to live in harmony with them. That's a step towards realization of everything as my own self. May sound simple, but it happens more likely as the heart center opens. When your heart center opens, you start to genuinely care. Like you feel for other beings. Not just pretending like, oh yeah, I should step over them, and yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's the rule. If it becomes a rule, that's like a religion. It's like rules. If you have to do certain things. And maybe that can be helpful for some people to have rules, but it would be ideal if, as your heart awakens, you start to actually feel for other creatures. And you care how they feel. You think, oh, I have feelings. Dan has feelings as well. And a good example would be like the trees. People cut down trees, but what if each tree actually had a face that was living like our face? Would we cut down trees? Probably not. We'd probably come up with another way to build houses that was kinder to trees, because we'd probably go and hug the trees instead of cut them down.